The repair shop was quiet. Too quiet. Old tools hung on the wall. Oil stains covered the floor. A broken motor sat in the center like a dead animal. People stood around it, arms crossed, shaking their heads. And there she was. A young black girl stood near the motor. Her hands were dirty. Her face was calm, but her eyes were not. They were sharp, focused, watching everything. The people around her were not kind. Some whispered. Some laughed. Some did not even try to hide their smiles. She thinks she can fix that, one man said softly. Another laughed louder. She's not her father. That sentence hit the air like a slap. The girl did not move. She had heard those words before. Too many times. You're not your father, a man said again, this time louder. Stop pretending. Everyone knew her father. He was a legend in this place. Years ago, when engines failed, people came from far away. They trusted his hands. They trusted his mind. When he worked, no one talked. They watched in silence. But he was gone now, and the shop was different. The respect was gone too. Now, all eyes were on her. The motor in front of them was important. Very important. It belonged to a big client. If it did not work, people would lose money. Time. Trust. Experts had already tried to fix it. They failed. One man shook his head and said, "This motor is dead." Another added, "It needs a real mechanic." They all looked at her when they said it. She slowly stepped closer to the motor. Her boots made a soft sound on the floor. Every step felt heavy. Someone laughed again. She's just wasting time. She should call someone else. She thinks she's special. The girl placed her hand on the cold metal. She did not speak. She listened, not to the people, to the engine. The room grew louder. You know, one man said, her father could fix anything. Another replied, yeah, but talent doesn't pass like blood. Then came the words that cut the deepest. She's just a girl. The girl closed her eyes for a second. She remembered the shop at night. Just her and her father. The smell of oil. The sound of tools. His voice, calm and steady. Engines talk, he used to say. You just have to listen. Her eyes opened. She looked around the room. Then she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but clear. Give me 10 minutes. The room exploded with laughter. 10 minutes, someone said. That motor has been dead for days. Another man checked his watch. This will be fun to watch. A few people stepped back, giving her space. Not because they believed in her, but because they wanted a better view when she failed. The girl tied her hair back. She picked up a wrench. The sound of metal echoed in the room. One man whispered, "She's really trying." Another replied, "Let her embarrass herself." The clock on the wall ticked. Every second felt loud. She knelt beside the motor. Her hands moved slowly, carefully. She touched each part like it mattered. Because it did. People kept talking. She's copying her father. She doesn't even know where to start. She should stop before it gets worse. She ignored them. Her fingers paused. She frowned. Something was wrong. Not broken. Just missed. Her breathing slowed. 5 minutes passed. The laughter began to fade. Not because they believed, but because they were confused. She wiped her hands on a cloth. Oil covered her palms. She stood up slightly, then bent back down. One man crossed his arms tighter. Another leaned forward. The room felt different now. Heavier. The girl straightened her back. She looked at the motor one last time. Then she stood up. Only a few minutes were left. She reached for the key. Someone said softly, "This is where she fails." She did not look at them. Her hand closed around the key. The room held its breath. Because something was about to happen. And none of them were ready for it. The girl did not touch the key yet. She stepped back from the motor. Not because she was afraid. Because memories were loud. The shop did not always sound like this. Once, it was full of respect. People used to wait in silence. They trusted the man who worked here. Her father. When he walked into the shop, voices went low. Even the engines seemed to behave. He never rushed. He never shouted. He just worked. And everything worked again. She remembered being small, sitting on an old box near the wall. Her legs were too short to touch the floor. She watched her father's hands move with purpose. "Look," he said once, pointing at a broken engine. "It is not angry. It is confused." She laughed that day, but she remembered those words now. After her father died, everything changed. People stopped coming. The shop grew quiet. Then the whispers came. Who will fix engines now? Can a girl do this job? She should sell the shop. She was still learning, still growing, still watching. But no one waited for that. They judged her fast. Too fast. One day, a man brought a small motor. She fixed it in hours. When he returned, he smiled. But the next day, he told others her father must have helped. He was already gone. Still, they gave him the credit. The girl learned a hard truth. People respected the name more than the person. And that name was heavy. Back in the present, the crowd shifted their weight. Someone coughed. Someone laughed again. She's thinking too hard, a man said. She doesn't have his gift, another replied. The girl wiped her hands slowly. She looked at the faces around her. Some were young. Some were old. All of them were watching, not to support, but to judge. A man stepped forward. He was tall, loud, confident. Listen, he said, we all miss your father. But this is serious work. This motor is expensive. The girl nodded. I know, she said. Her voice did not shake. He raised an eyebrow. Then step aside. She looked at him. I won't. That surprised him. He smiled, but it was not kind. You're not your father. Silence followed. Those words had power. They always did. She felt them push against her chest. She remembered crying alone in the shop late at night, wondering if she was enough, wondering if she should quit. But she also remembered her father's last lesson. You don't fix engines to prove something, he said. You fix them because you care. She took a deep breath. I'm not my father, she said slowly. Some people laughed. She continued. I myself. That stopped them. Not the laughter, the movement. She knelt again by the motor. This time, her hands moved faster. More sure. She blocked out the noise. Blocked out the doubt. Her fingers traced the lines. Felt the heat. The tension. This motor was not dead. It was tired. A mistake was made earlier. A small one. Easy to miss if you rush. Easy to ignore if you think you already know everything. Her father taught her to respect small things. Big problems hide in small places, he used to say. She found it. Her heart beat faster. The crowd leaned closer. Someone whispered, What is she doing? Another said, That part was already checked. She did not answer. She adjusted one piece. Then another. Her hands were steady. Time moved slow, then fast. Sweat rolled down her face. She stood up again. 7 minutes gone. 3 left. The tall man checked his watch. Time's almost up. She nodded. I know. She picked up a cloth and wiped her hands. The shop felt different now. Not loud. Not mocking. Just waiting. She reached for the key again. This time, she did not pause. Because now, she knew. And soon, they would too. The silence did not last long. It never did. A loud engine sound came from outside the shop. A black truck stopped hard near the door. Everyone turned to look. The client had arrived. He stepped inside with confidence. Clean clothes. Sharp eyes. He looked at the broken motor and frowned. What's the problem? He asked. No one answered at first. Then the tall man spoke quickly. The motor failed. We're trying to fix it. The client looked at the girl. Then he laughed. You, he asked. You're working on this? The girl stood still. Yes, she said. The laugh grew louder. This motor costs more than this shop. The room joined him. Some smiled. Some nodded. Some already believed she had failed. The client crossed his arms. I don't have time for experiments. The tall man pointed at her. She asked for 10 minutes. The client checked his watch. How much time left? 3, someone answered. The client shook his head. This is a joke. The girl felt every eye on her again. This time, it was heavier. If she failed now, it would not just be words. It would be the end of the shop. The client stepped closer. Move aside. Call a real mechanic. The word real stayed in the air. The girl looked at the motor, then at the client, then at the people who once respected her father. I asked for 10 minutes, she said. The client laughed again. And I'm done waiting. She did not raise her voice. She did not beg. She simply said, 2 minutes. That made people uncomfortable. Not because of her words, but because of her calm. The client stared at her. If this fails, I leave. Forever. She nodded. That's fair. A few people gasped. Someone whispered, she's crazy. The tall man stepped back. Let her finish. The girl turned back to the motor. Her heart was loud now, but her hands were not shaking. She worked fast. Too fast for the crowd to understand. Someone said, "She skipped steps." Another replied, "She doesn't know the process." They were wrong. Her process was different. She remembered her father working during a storm once. "Power out. No lights. Just sound and touch. Trust what you feel," he said. She trusted it now. She removed one part, then another. Oil dripped on the floor. The client looked annoyed. "You're making it worse." She did not answer. 30 seconds left. The room felt tight. Air felt thick. Someone coughed. Someone else checked their phone. The girl wiped her hands. She stood up straight. She looked at the motor one last time. Her fingers touched the key. The client shook his head. "Stop. Don't." She turned it. Nothing. A few people laughed. "There it is. I told you." The girl did not move. She listened. She turned the key again. The motor shook. Just a little. The laughter slowed. She adjusted one small thing. One tiny movement. Then she turned the key again. The motor roared. Loud. Strong. Alive. The sound filled the shop. Everyone froze. No one spoke. The client stepped back. The tall man's mouth dropped open. Someone whispered, "That's not possible." The girl stepped away from the motor. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply watched it run. The client walked closer. Slowly. Carefully. Like the motor might disappear. He touched it. It was real. He looked at her. His voice was lower now. "How did you?" She cut him off. "It wasn't broken," she said. "It was ignored." Silence again. Different this time. Heavy with truth. The client cleared his throat. "Your father taught you well." She looked at him. "No," she said. "He taught me to listen." The motor kept running. And in that moment, the room understood something. They were not watching a girl fail. They were watching someone become dangerous. Not with anger, but with skill. And this was only the beginning. The motor was running. But the room was frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. The sound of the engine filled the shop like a heartbeat. Strong. Steady. Alive. The girl stood still, her hands at her side. Oil covered her fingers. Sweat rested on her forehead. She did not smile. She did not look proud. She only listened. People were confused. They had already decided she would fail. They had already laughed. Now they did not know what to do with the truth standing in front of them. The client stepped back slowly. He looked at the motor again. Then at her. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. That shouldn't be working. The girl looked at him calmly. "It is," she said. That was all. The tall man cleared his throat. "I've never seen that fix before." She nodded. Because no one looked there. Her voice was quiet, but every word landed heavy. The shop felt smaller now. People shifted. Crossed arms opened. Eyes dropped to the floor. The same men who laughed earlier could not meet her eyes. One of them whispered, "She really did it." The girl bent down and adjusted a valve. The engine softened, smoother now. Like it trusted her. She stepped back again. The motor purred. Silence returned. But this silence was different. It was respect trying to find its place. The client walked around the motor slowly. He nodded once. Then again. "This saved me a lot of money," he said. She did not answer. He looked uncomfortable. I assumed." She looked at him then. Her eyes were steady. "People assume a lot," she said. He swallowed. The tall man stepped forward. His voice was low now. "You learned this from your father." The girl wiped her hands on the cloth. She shook her head. "I learned from watching," she said. "From listening. From being ignored." That made the room quiet again. Ignored. The word sat there. Because everyone knew it was true. A young boy near the door looked at her with wide eyes. He had been watching the whole time. His hands were dirty too. He smiled. She noticed him. And for a moment, her face softened. The client pulled out his phone. "I want to pay extra." She raised her hand. "No." He looked surprised. She continued. "Just pay what's fair." That surprised him more. He nodded slowly. "Of course." The engine kept running. The shop felt alive again. But not for everyone. The tall man stood there quiet. His face was red. He looked at the floor, then back at her. "You prove your point," he said. "No need to make us feel small." She looked at him. "I didn't try to," she said. "You did that yourselves." That hurt more than shouting. He said nothing after that. She turned the engine off gently. The sound faded. The shop breathed again. People started to move. Some stepped closer, asking questions. Others stepped away, ashamed. The girl gathered her tools. She felt tired. Not in her body. in her chest. Being strong caused something. She walked to the sink and washed her hands. Oil swirled away in dark lines. The mirror above the sink showed her face. Not her father's. Hers. The boy from the door stepped closer. "Can you teach me?" he asked softly. She smiled. "A small one." "Yes," she said. The client watched that moment. Something changed in his eyes. He cleared his throat. "This shop, it will be known again." She turned to him. "It already is." The room agreed, without words. But outside the shop, people were already talking. Stories travel fast, especially when someone is proven wrong. And this story was not about a motor. It was about a girl they tried to silence. And failed. The shop did not feel the same anymore. Something had shifted. People stood differently now. Their voices were softer. Their jokes were gone. The laughter that once filled the room had disappeared. The girl wiped her hands and placed her tools back where they belonged. Each tool had a place. Just like before. Before the doubts. Before the whispers. The client stayed longer than expected. He walked around the shop slowly, looking at the walls, the old photos, the worn floor. "This place has history," he said. The girl nodded. "It does." He pointed at an old picture on the wall. Her father stood there, smiling, oil on his face. People around him looked proud. "You look like him," the client said. She did not reply, because she had heard that sentence her whole life, and it always came with a weight. Outside the shop, a small crowd had formed. Word had traveled fast. People stopped to look inside. Some came closer. Some whispered her name. A man entered the shop, then another. Engines were no longer broken, but pride was. One of the men who laughed earlier stepped forward. His face was tense. "I didn't mean what I said," he muttered. She looked at him. "What did you say?" she asked calmly. He swallowed. "That you couldn't do it." She nodded. "You were wrong." That was all. He waited for more. There was nothing. That silence made him uncomfortable. The tall man remained near the door. He had not left. He had not spoken much since the motor started. Finally, he walked closer. "You embarrassed us," he said. She turned slowly. "No," she replied. "You embarrassed yourselves." The words were simple, but sharp. He looked around. No one supported him now. The crowd was watching. He sighed. "People talk." She nodded. "They always do." He lowered his voice. "You could have failed. You took a risk." She met his eyes. "So did my father. Every day." That ended the conversation. The tall man stepped away. Outside, a woman stopped the girl as she walked to the door to close it. "My brother has a motor problem," the woman said. "I heard what you did." The girl looked at her. "Bring it tomorrow." The woman smiled. "I will." More people heard that. More people nodded. The shop was waking up, not because of noise, but because of trust. The boy from earlier sat near the wall again, watching, learning without asking. The girl noticed him. She handed him a cloth. "Clean the tools." His eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes," she said. "Start there." He worked carefully, like it mattered, because it did. The client finished his call and walked back. "I'll tell others," he said. "People who respect skill." She nodded. "Thank you." He hesitated. "You could have yelled." "You didn't." She looked at the motor. "Engines don't need shouting," she said. "Neither do people." He smiled. As the sun lowered, the shop lights came on. Warm. Steady. The girl stood in the doorway for a moment, watching people walk past. Some stopped. Some looked twice. They saw her now, not as someone's daughter, but as someone dangerous in her own way. Dangerous with skill. With calm. With truth. The boy finished cleaning and stood straight. "What next?" She smiled slightly. "Tomorrow," she said. He nodded. Outside, the tall man watched from across the street. He looked smaller now. Respect had moved, and it did not ask permission. The girl locked the door. Inside the shop, the motor sat quiet again. Fixed. Waiting. Like her. Because this was not the end. It was the moment everything began to change. The next morning, the shop opened early. Too early. The girl unlocked the door before sunrise. The air was cool. Quiet. Honest. She liked it that way. She turned on the lights. The shop looked the same, but it wasn't. Something invisible had changed. Before she could even pick up her tools, footsteps stopped outside. One person, then two, then more. She looked up. People stood near the door. Not laughing. Not judging. Waiting. A man stepped forward. Older. Careful eyes. Grease on his hands. My engine won't start, he said. They said you're the one to see. She nodded. Bring it in. That was how it began. By mid-morning, the shop was full. Engines lined up. Voices low. Respectful. The boy cleaned tools without being told. He listened more than he spoke. Then the tall man walked in. The room shifted. People noticed. He stood near the door for a moment, unsure. This was not his space anymore. He cleared his throat. We need to talk. The girl kept working. You can talk, she said. I can work. That made him uncomfortable. He stepped closer. People are saying things. She nodded. They always do. He looked around. They're saying you're better than your father. The room went silent. The boy stopped moving. The girl paused. Then she placed the tool down slowly. She looked at the tall man. That's not true, she said. He looked surprised. You fixed what others couldn't. She replied, so did he. The tall man crossed his arms. Then why say you're not him? She met his eyes. Because I don't live in his shadow, she said. And I don't need your permission. That landed hard. People listened. The tall man sighed. I said things. We all did. She waited. He shifted his weight. We thought the shop would fail. She nodded. You hoped it would. That was the truth. He looked away. Maybe. She picked up her tool again. This shop isn't about pride, she said. It's about work. He hesitated. Can you fix my engine? She did not answer right away. The room held its breath. Finally, she said, yes. Relief crossed his face. But not because of your name, she added. Because the work deserves it. He nodded slowly. That's fair. She fixed his engine without drama. Without words. When it started, he smiled like a man who learned something late. He paid. He said thank you. Then he left quietly. Outside, people talked. But not the same way. Now they told the story right. They talked about her hands. Her calm. Her silence. A local reporter arrived that afternoon. Small camera. Big questions. What does it feel like, he asked, to prove everyone wrong? She looked at him. I didn't prove anything, she said. They did. He blinked. How? By doubting me. The reporter did not know what to write. That night, when the shop closed, the girl sat alone for a moment. Tired. Full. She looked at the photo of her father on the wall. I'm doing okay, she whispered. Not for him. For herself. The boy came over. People listen to you now. She smiled softly. They always had the choice. Outside, the street was louder than before. Cars passed. Lights flashed. The shop was no longer invisible. And neither was she. But the real test was still coming. Because respect is easy when things work. The hard part is keeping it when they don't. And tomorrow would test that. The shop was full again. Not with noise. With respect. Sunlight came through the windows, touching the tools, the floor, the old walls. Engines waited in line. People waited too. Patient. Quiet. The girl moved through the shop with steady steps. She was not rushing. She did not need to. She had earned time. A man stood near the door. New face. Clean shoes. Sharp smile. I heard about you, he said. They say you're just like your father. The girl stopped. She looked at him. She smiled. But it was not the smile he expected. I'm not, she said. He laughed softly. Everyone says that at first. She shook her head. No, I mean it. The man raised an eyebrow. Then who are you? She turned back to the engine in front of her. I'm the one fixing it, she said. That was enough. The boy watched from the corner. He was learning fast now. Not just engines. People. Later that day, the tall man returned. Not angry. Not loud. Different. He stood near the counter and waited. When she looked up, he spoke. I came to say something. She nodded. Say it. He took a breath. I was wrong. The room listened. I didn't just doubt you, he said. I tried to stop you. She did not reply. He continued. I thought if you failed, the shop would close. And I would feel right. That honesty was rare. She looked at him. And now, she asked. He lowered his head. Now I see I was afraid. She nodded. That happens, she said. He smiled sadly. You didn't become your father. She smiled too. No, she said. I became myself. The words stayed in the air. People remembered them. The tall man left without another word. As the day went on, the shop stayed busy. A woman brought coffee. A man brought lunch. Someone cleaned the floor without being asked. Community had returned. But it was different now. It was earned. In the afternoon, The boy made a mistake. A small one. He froze. I'm sorry, he said quickly. The girl looked at him. She did not shout. She did not sigh. She fixed the mistake with him. Then she said, mistakes teach. Fear hides. He nodded. He would remember that forever. As evening came, the shop slowly emptied. Engines left running. People left smiling. The girl stood alone again. She walked to the photo on the wall. Her father's eyes looked back at her. Strong, proud, but quiet. She did not speak this time. She did not need to. Outside, someone had painted a small sign near the door. Respect lives here. She smiled. Not wide, just enough. She locked the door and turned off the lights. The shop rested. The girl walked into the street. The same street where people once laughed. Now they nodded. Some waved. She walked past them, because she did not need their approval anymore. The voice of the narrator settled low and steady. They mocked her. They doubted her. They tried to make her small. But she did not shout. She did not beg. She worked. And in the end, she did not become her father. She became something stronger. Herself. Direct hit end message for audience. You don't need to be who they compare you to. You don't need their belief to prove your worth. Skill, patience, and truth speak louder than noise.